Welcome to the Andy Staples Show, possibly Ari Wasserman's last show as a single man. We don't know. He's the trek to the nuptials will begin this week. Ari, are you ready?
Ready to get married or ready for all the logistical things that we're going through?
Yes and yes.
I'm very ready to get married. I am married. We have a baby.
You are married, yes.
And we own a home together, and we have bank accounts. So we're already married. Very excited for the day. Very excited for the people and the event. I am not excited for all the things that we have to get done beforehand. So I'm driving from Dallas, Texas to Phoenix starting on Tuesday, picking up Britt at the airport on Thursday at 1 in Scottsdale or in Tempe. And then we are going to a wedding in Sedona on Friday.
Not night. Your wedding.
Not my wedding. Somebody else's wedding. Friday
so you
night.
Get a practice wedding.
Night.
You get to.
Yes.
That's the best thing. You get to scout. You get to self-scout before your own wedding.
Yeah, and it'll be a good time. Sedona is a great place. And then, but also Britt is flying with the baby for the first time. We're leaving the baby with the parents, my parents in Phoenix, and then going up to this wedding, coming back down. Then we are scooping the baby and driving to Palm Springs for 2 days to cut the trip in half. And then we're going to California or Laguna Beach where we're getting married and setting things up for the 5 days before it. So a lot of exciting times, but also a little bit worried. I have a custom suit that I'm still trying to figure out logistically
Fancy.
where it's going to be shipped because it was supposed to be ready by Tuesday. And of course it's not.
So
now we've got to try to figure out how we're going to ship it to the place. And if not, I had to buy backup blazer and sharp blazer, but I want to wear the one that I paid for. All sorts of different things like that are kind of.
We have our groomsmen gifts. Are they ready to roll?
Yeah, I actually this wedding is not like a traditional, groomsmen, bridesmaid type thing. It's just going to be very low key, and everybody's just going to get drunk. Let's just be honest. We're going to have a short ceremony. We got some food. We're going to be by the beach, and it's just going to be a good time. So
it's going to be, do you? Yeah. Do you? Yeah. We already got joint bank accounts.
Yeah.
Great. Kiss. Bar.
Yeah. Everybody, we have a child. What are we doing here? Thanks for coming. Let's have a good time. So, it's going to be an amazing day, and I've been looking forward to it for a long time. It's crazy how quickly it's come up, and, it's just kind of like that last ditch efforts with all the things that we have to do in order to be prepared for it. And it's like, I have my car is going to be filled with everything from like baby formula to Britt's wedding dress. So like, I have to
don't get the former on the ladder.
I won't.
The best advice I can give you right now.
And I also am a big Marriott snob. And I've been looking at the route from Dallas to Phoenix.
Oh, no.
And so basically you have Midland and Odessa, and then the next major city is El Paso.
Yeah.
And then you have Las Cruces, then Tucson, then Phoenix, which is my route.
And like I have Courtyard or Fairfield.
Yeah. And they all have them, but Britt has put it in my head that we can't have my car robbed. Like if somebody breaks into my car,
what? Where do you think you're staying?
Well, it happened. I mean, my car got broken into in Houston at a Marriott, So now I'm trying to.
You might be at a Fairfield that shares its parking lot with a perfectly lovely Panera Bread.
Yeah, no, I know, and I hope so. But I just in my head, it's just her wedding dress is going to be in there. So I think we have to pack in a certain way so I can take the most valuable things, not just from a monetary standpoint, but the irreplaceable. But
you are going to leave her wedding dress in the closet of a Fairfield in Odessa, Texas, and I am here for it.
Yeah, so we're all, these are all the things that are swirling through my head right now.
Friday Night Lights 2, the search for Britt's dress.
Yeah, and if that happened, I don't think she would marry me because it's a beautiful dress. I haven't seen it yet, but she's very excited about it, and I've got the rings, I've got all sorts of things that's going to be in the car, so I've got to pack it in a way so I can pull out the necessities so that if the worst case scenario happens and somebody breaks into my car, we can still get married. So first time the baby is leaving Texas, first time leaving Dallas. And so we have all the toys and the
Do you think she's ever going to want to come home after she sees you in Orange County?
No, and that's why we haven't taken her to Norman yet, because we want her to want to live in Dallas. But
speaking of which, is Lincoln Riley coming to the wedding? I mean, he's
yeah,
not
he
far
should.
away.
I mean, I've been gassing up his program better than anybody on the face of the earth in the last 2 weeks, including their beat writer, who is down on them in comparison to me. So
it is not Antonio's job to be a fan. Also,
no,
if
not
you
be a
read his
fan, but
wayward
like
program
at least
UCLA story, he was way tougher on the Bruins.
Yeah. No, I know it's not his job to be a fan. I just thought he would share some of the enthusiasm of they're going to take over the world, but as Oregon continues to get top 150 players to sign with their program and USC is not, I'm starting to become more and more concerned about that. But
starting to worry, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, all good vibes. Super excited for everything. Excited to get to California. And then instead of going on a honeymoon, I'm coming to Phoenix, Arizona with the athletic college football staff the day after I get married to have a college football staff summit in Scottsdale, which will be fun.
So you're spending your honeymoon with me.
You. Yes.
That's the worst honeymoon ever.
I thought about you at my bachelor party, and I'm spending my honeymoon with you. I don't know what's going to happen the day of my wedding, but I don't know.
I didn't do this. So I'm not the third person in the relationship, I promise.
Yeah.
We're not doing any of that throuple stuff.
She likes you a lot, so I think that there are worse people that I could be.
Okay,
about.
well, at least she can tolerate me. That's good, because you are stuck with me at this point. And we're what we're gonna do. We're gonna further cement our relationship today, Ari, because we're gonna create our own advanced ranking. We have to, because I wasn't even thinking about this last week, and I ignore most preseason way too early rankings because they're obviously just pure guesswork and for entertainment purposes only. But I went on a couple of radio shows last week and unprompted was asked about ESPN's FPI rankings, which dropped last week. And the first one I was on with Andrew Perloff, our friend who's been on this show before. And he's doing his show in New York, and New York talk radio. You got to paint in real big strokes when you're doing college football, because it's just like, what does it mean for the Jets? So he's like, what about this FPI ranking? They got Texas at number 6. I had not seen it, and I just laughed. I was like, what? Texas is number 6? So yes, ESPN's FPI ranking, which we'll get into how it's figured out in a minute. But Alabama number 1, Ohio State number 2, Georgia number 3, Clemson number 4. Nothing earth-shattering here. Notre Dame number 5, also nothing earth-shattering there. Texas 6, Michigan 7, Oklahoma number 8, number 9, Pitt. Don't listen. I know they may be mayonnaise, but they did win the ACC last year, so let's put some respect on the Panthers' name. Number 10, Auburn. As if the whole coup thing didn't happen.
I kind of feel like this entire ranking is just all the teams that we have bagged on this podcast in very high.
Oh, wait.
Every high spots.
Number 11, gather the family around LSU. I'm the Texas and Auburn ones just blew my mind. Like when Andrew said that out loud, I just couldn't keep from laughing. And I'm going to feel very stupid, I guess, if this FPI is 100% accurate, because actually, when you look at it, it's not as weird, I guess, but it is still saying that Texas is the 6th strongest team in America and Auburn is the 10th strongest team in America, which no, they're not. Simply put, they are not. So I did a little digging, Ari, to help us out, to help us understand.
Please.
There's a video that ESPN put out about 6 years ago explaining FPI. It is a predictive index. This is the math that they put up. I'm sure there are some folks in our viewership, listenership, readership who do math for a living. If you're watching this on the YouTube, you were looking at an equation.
This is the equation that he drew on the chalkboard in Good Will Hunting, right?
Basically. And the way it's presented in the video, and it really does remind me of a lot of the film strips I saw in elementary school, except it doesn't have as many people wearing bell bottoms and doesn't have the jammin' disco bass line. It's basically, here's all the math. We used a lot of math, but you're too stupid to possibly understand that. So we're we'll show you what we actually use to create inputs for these numbers. And here's what they use in the preseason. The results from the previous 4 seasons. So for Auburn, I guess that's okay.
How is that even relevant?
But with Texas, the previous 4 seasons, with the exception of one of them, have not been good.
The thing I don't so here's the thing before you finish, and I just have to say, I just know that the FPI is something that they release every spring that makes everybody angry and makes no sense. That's the only thing I know about it.
Right.
But as a layman and somebody who, as everybody knows on this podcast, is very bad at math, I would like to know how what happened 4 years ago has even a fraction of a percentage of determination of how we are ranking this year's teams. Like, it's already irrelevant information that has no bearing whatsoever on anything that we know about who's coming into this season.
Right.
So it's like you can keep explaining it because this is the first time I've seen this, but it's just like what they did the previous 4 seasons is completely irrelevant to ranking what's going to happen this year.
Returning starters, which
okay, that's important. That's an important metric.
That seem surprisingly on there. Don't they have quite a few returning starters? Of course, Georgia does not have that many returning starters on defense, yet is still ranked number 3, probably because the people replacing those returning starters are really, really good. Returning coach. Again, this is a little complicated with Auburn. This is not.
Is that a good thing? Yeah,
right.
Is that always? I'm not saying it with Harston. I just mean in general, it's not always a good thing.
Right. Well, and ditto for returning starters. When your starters lost the last 5 games last season, that's not a good trend line. But returning or recruiting classes. Here you go. Stars mattering, Ari. That's the other criterion.
That's a good one.
Of course, stars matter. So I can see where Texas would get a huge bump from that. Auburn would get a bump too, because
where does losing to Kansas get factored in?
I'm not sure they factored it in. Now, I have a theory about this. And my theory is this. My theory is that they ran the numbers and there was a group of teams that got spit out at the top. And it was a perfectly normal looking group of teams. And you're like, okay, this is really boring and nobody's going to talk about this on Twitter or Instagram or talk radio or podcasts. And they're like, who can we put in this thing to really spice it up? So people will start talking about it.
And there is no better team, if this is their theory, to throw into the middle of a good ranking than Texas.
Let's chum those waters.
Yeah. I mean, I get excited. It's here's the thing. And stop me if you think that I'm falling into the same idiotic trap that I fall into every year. But if we look at the teams that are ranked directly behind Texas, Michigan, yes. Oklahoma, Pittsburgh, right. Auburn, LSU, yes. Penn State, Oklahoma State, and A&M.
Yes.
Are we sure beyond the shadow of a doubt that any of those teams that I just named are better than Texas coming into the year? It has nothing to do with FPI. I just mean in general.
Right. No, and theoretically, if Texas plays to its recruiting rankings over the last few years, theoretically, it could be better than all those teams.
There isn't a team behind them. Let's put it this way. There isn't a team behind them that Texas could not beat if they put it together.
This is true.
But I guess that's probably true for anybody.
Could we not say the same of Oregon? Which is
if you swapped Oregon with
3 right now.
If you swapped Oregon with Texas?
Well, where Oregon is right now. Actually, yes, if you swapped Oregon with Texas and you went stars matter on this thing, you could say that you would say they could beat anybody below them.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Well, they're 23, right ahead of Mississippi State and Florida.
The FPI reminds me of the recruiting rankings. You have 4 teams at the top that are unquestionably better than everybody else. And then everybody else is kind of interchangeable. And depending on who, hits the right cocktail, will kind of stand out. So I think that it's more of an angering for people because Texas seems to get the benefit of the doubt in every preseason ranking ever. And I think part of that is just the brand and, of course, the way they recruited. And, of course, they haven't been as good as their preseason rankings have indicated the last few years. But to just toss them in at number 6 is just like
I don't
people
think they're
lose their
going to get
mind.
a benefit from the humans in the preseason rankings this year.
I think
I
you
think
lose
they're
that when
probably
you lose to Kansas, right?
yeah, they're going to start outside the top 25 would be my
Would
guess.
you bet your life on that? Because I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
I bet you
wouldn't
that
either.
I actually would wager you right now that they will be in the AP top 25.
I'm so glad I don't have to do a preseason ranking, though we're gonna do one right now because it's good for the show. Let's be honest.
Hey,
I mean,
can I read something to you though, Andy?
go for
Here, just using the FPI only.
it. Okay.
Here are the 26 through 30 ranked teams: NC State, Iowa State, Tennessee, Arkansas, Wake Forest, Florida State 31, Cincinnati 32, UCF 33, UCLA 34, and Nebraska 35. So those are the 10 teams that are directly outside of the top 25. You're
All
telling me
teams
the
I
humans?
wouldn't be shocked if they beat Texas if they played.
No, I know, but you're telling me that the humans ranking
The
the
humans
AP
are
poll
gonna
aren't
like
going to rank them
NC
ahead of those
State.
teams?
They're gonna like NC State. Of those, NC State's the only one that's gonna get the bump.
I think Texas is a surefire lock to be a top 25 team in the AP poll.
Oh, I have more faith. I do. I shouldn't.
Well, I mean,
Well,
you want to bet?
yes, I do. But what are the stakes?
Yes, I want to bet.
That's the question. What are the stakes in this one?
I don't know. We can come up with some stakes.
Are the stakes stakes? I think the stakes should be stakes.
That'd be okay. I mean, I don't know who the loser is in that scenario, but
the loser is the person who has to pay. That's who the loser.
I'd buy you a steak any day of the week, Andy.
Absolutely. Let's do that. The stakes are stakes. And
no Longhorn Roadhouse.
No. We're
talking to a steak
dry aged here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, the stakes are stakes. When we get together in the preseason, and we are going to do that because we're done with the social distancing and whatnot. So we're going to get together multiple times in the preseason. So we might be together at one of the conference media days. We might be together just for a little preseason tour for the show. However we want to do that. Yes. If in the AP poll, Texas is ranked in the top 25, not also receiving votes, but in the top 25, I owe you a steak dinner. If they are not ranked in the top 25, you owe me a steak.
And I'm putting lobster on mine because I need to get that 1,000 pack. I'm gonna start chipping away at it.
Absolutely, you can Oscar it. However you want to play it. Oh, you know who the FBI hates? USC.
Oh yeah. Where is? Oh yeah, USC is ranked down. Number 37.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the recruiting class a few years ago. Keep scrolling. You know what that equation reminds me of too? And you pulled up that math equation, the FPI of like how 247 determines its point system. Have you ever like figured out how 247's recruiting rankings have? There's like an explanation on 247's website that has a bunch of weird, beautiful mind symbols that make no sense, and it's amazing. And I've tried to explain it to people before, and I think I understand it, but I have to like reteach myself every year because around signing day when people are, it's a pretty incredibly complex equation for what you would think would just be adding up
a scale of 1 to 6.
It's
for the love of God.
Yeah, no, it's I'm trying to find it right now. Here it is right now. The formula, where C is a specific team's total number of commits and RN is the 247 Sport Composite ranking of the nth best commit times 100. That's the explanation.
Team points.
The team rankings. I'll send you the formula here. It looks just like that. Not quite as intense as the FPI, but at least this is calculating something that matters.
Yeah, the FPI is interesting because I think as actual data rolls in, then it becomes a better deal. It's a predictive ranking. And our friend Bill Connolly, who does the S&P Plus rankings, also at ESPN, we've had him on the show before. We obviously couldn't have him making fun of the FPI because I don't think he'd be allowed to do that. I think he'd get fired for that sort of thing. But I am curious to see where S&P Plus and FPI differ. And I believe Bill's already done some S&P Plus, and I believe Texas is in the 20s in S&P Plus. I want to say it's 23. So I think our predictive measures are tracking a little differently. But if I remember correctly, most years FPI becomes a fairly reliable predictor as more results roll in. So when you get to the back half of the season, then maybe you got something cooking. But it's really not made to be a preseason thing.
Yeah, it's like how the polls get more reliable as information comes in.
Yeah, it's almost like
it's harder to be wrong when it's right in front of your face. It says here that Texas has a 17 points. Oh, wait, no, a 21% chance of making the playoff this year.
That is absurd. Now watch Texas make the playoff. But I'm gonna.
I would cease to exist if that happened.
It is unbelievable.
How many wins do you think Texas would have to get to before my shirt comes off and I have a big UT thing painted on my chest? How much of a leash do you give me? And I mean,
how many wins
they play
this
Alabama.
Season? I can tell you right now.
They play Alabama and OU in the first 6 weeks of the year.
You will have Bevo tattooed somewhere on your body.
If they're what?
If they're 2-0.
Oh yeah. If they beat Alabama, could you imagine if they were 6-1
with a loss to Alabama?
Pick whoever you want them to lose to. It doesn't matter. I'm in.
Well, yeah, because what if the losses to UTSA or ULM and they've beaten Alabama and Oklahoma?
Yeah, I mean, if they are able to split that, I feel like that isn't that kind of. I don't want to suck you back down into the depths of a Texas conversation anymore, but like, is a successful season for Texas to them split those two?
I would think so. So and again, the FPI is a predictive thing, so it predicts a record for them, and the prediction is 9.4 and 3 to 3-2 or to 3.2. So they're basically predicting more than likely a 9-3 season. But see, and that's where it gets more interesting. Like, Auburn is only 4 spots below Texas, but it's 7.4 and 4.6. So they're basically 50, either 8-4 or 7-5 is what they're saying for them.
Yeah,
and like 7-5 for Auburn would be fine. Would not be considered a great season, but under the circumstances would probably be just fine. But given their schedule, seems pretty hard.
What if Texas gets their doors blown off by Alabama, loses to Oklahoma by 10, and beats everybody else on their schedule that they're supposed to beat? Is that a successful year? Where they don't lose a TCU or
what happened
Iowa
last
State?
year? Absolutely.
Yeah, if they just make it through one season where they beat the teams they're supposed to.
Yeah. And that would put them right where the 9-3 is what this one says. So you could even hand them a loss to, say, Baylor or Oklahoma State, depending on who winds up being really good in the Big 12. And that still may be good enough to get them in the Big 12 championship game, depending on how other teams beat up on each other. So I think that would be okay. And you've got to adjust expectations at some point. And you got to say, this has been bad, mediocre, whatever you want to call it, and say, okay, improvement from this will make us happy for a little bit. Because I do feel like it's a bigger hole to climb out of than people think.
The lowest rated Power 5 school in the FPI is Vandy at 103. Kansas is number 97. They're the second worst. Oh, actually the third worst. Duke is 102.
Oh, yeah. No
Kansas,
respect for my
guy. Yeah. Kansas is 97, and Arizona is 89.
So this is going to be a fascinating year. I don't think this is going to be correct, but we're going to need to do our own rankings, Ari. So I am creating right now, as we sit here, the Andy Staples Show computer laptop organized win Nexus.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be the greatest ranking the world has ever seen. How do we figure out the teams? Well, I mean, first of all, we've established ourselves as mathematical geniuses on this show. So to that, I will say, just trust us. Most of you are far too stupid, cannot perform math at the level that we can. So you couldn't possibly understand the calculations that we're dealing with here. But just understand that Ari and I can understand them. Do you understand, Ari?
I understand, for sure.
Okay, good. Just making sure. So if you've heard us do math on this show in real time, I mean, Will Hunting has nothing on me. So I have devised this ranking system, and I am ready. And I think I've got a top 10 that will blow the doors off the FPI. Are you ready, Ari?
Yeah, let's hear it. I knew you've been working on this.
All day. Number 1, Notre Dame. Nothing pisses people off more than Notre Dame in a ranking. So let's put them at number 1 so that everyone will talk about us.
So the goal of this is to create the most anger as possible.
The most everything. Not anger. I want joy. I want everything. I want to be the subject of every talk radio show in America.
So we're just kind of touching them all.
Colin Cowherd to deliver a 9-minute monologue while his producer keeps going, stretch it out, where he uses 17 different analogies to describe why we have USC ranked in the wrong place. That's what I want.
Keep going, man. I'm interested. I got a taste, and I want a little more now.
Well, the Notre Dame thing, listen, you and I both know. We could just type the words Notre Dame into the tweet box on Twitter and hit send, and it would generate 100 different conversations that would go on for about a week.
I was thinking about this, and
Notre Dame triggers people.
I was asking Bill Landis this on the Ohio State podcast. What? And I know that Notre Dame is like, the people who hate Notre Dame have it like ingrained in their DNA since they were kids. But I was wondering, like, and I asked this from an Ohio State standpoint because we were talking about Ohio State, but do Ohio State fans hate Notre Dame as much now as they did 6 months ago? And in turn, does the country? Because, like, I find like this is the first time in a while that they've had a very likable head coach. And it's just like, I don't know what there is to really hate about Notre Dame anymore.
Based on what the responses I get whenever I write about Notre Dame or we talk about Notre Dame, there is legitimate anger. People are just mad that they don't have to be in a conference. Like this really bothers people
because it's an aura of like they are levitating above the rest of us.
That they're special. And look, when I was a kid, they absolutely were special. They had their deal on NBC. They were really the only team that played almost every game on national television. It was special. They had the Sunday replays of Notre Dame games. They didn't have Sunday replays of anybody else's games. And so, yes, they were treated differently than everybody else. They did have inherent advantages that other teams didn't have. But now they don't. They'd make a lot more money if they were in the Big Ten.
Does it strike you as weird that Notre Dame, with all of the things that you just said, didn't turn into Alabama at any point?
No, because Notre Dame never changed how it felt about Notre Dame, the school. And they said it's going to be a little bit harder. We're going to have different admission requirements than not all of the other FBS schools, but then a lot of the other FBS schools. And it's harder to stay in. They don't really have a basket weaving major at Notre Dame, which I'm not saying that every major college football program shunts its players into easy majors. I'm saying most large state universities have very easy majors.
I'm just trying to think about the modern day world of recruiting. And if you were to take one team or one program and put them in a situation where they were broadcasted the most and had the most viewers just from its television deal, had its own replay, all the advantages that they had, and were basically put on a pedestal.
Yeah.
How that would manifest in the recruiting rankings if this happened in 2019.
Well, it did manifest in the recruiting rankings in a way that Notre Dame dominated the sport for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, now recruiting was different. They cast a wide
I just mean like
net.
in the modern day, like if you were to give, let's just say you put Auburn as that now.
That Auburn would be awesome.
They would just be amazing.
National title contender. Now, can they get everybody they want into school? Can they recruit from the whole country?
I mean, you can't ever change that. If you don't change that,
that's the limiting factor that Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, they're not dealing with that.
The one
So
thing I'm not an expert on, and I've always wanted to know, and maybe you know the answer to this off the top of your head, and to a certain extent, I still want to know like what it is for Stanford and Northwestern.
what's the admission standard?
What is no? I don't want to know what the score is or whatever. What I want to know is how much harder is it actually to get a student into school at Notre Dame than it is at a place like Michigan or a place like even
I think it depends, but I would, based on what I've heard about UCLA and Cal, I would think they're actually pretty similar. There was a
like Stanford's got to be way harder, right?
Yes, and Stanford's different too because they have a harder time even offering players because you don't officially really get accepted to Stanford. Like if Notre Dame's offering you a scholarship, if they've already been through enough of the process to know you're getting into school. Like Stanford, they don't quite know yet. So you still have to get admitted and all that. So it is. It sounds like it is the longest process of those.
Because if you go look at Notre Dame's offer list, they've got a lot of offers out to really good players.
Right.
And I think there's this stigma or this thought process from people that most high school football recruits are just dumb and can't get into school. And it's like, I bet you notice, 80% of the top 100 players in the country would probably get into Notre Dame.
Right. You notice I said different. I didn't say they were that much higher. The difficulty with Notre Dame specifically is staying at Notre Dame
or having the desire to be in that environment.
Right. And they've
which has nothing to do with academics. It's just cultural.
They've altered some things in terms of players living together, but players, for the most part are dispersed among the general student body.
Do they live together now or not?
I think they're still,
I think they still have random roommates, right?
Yeah. Throughout the student body, which is designed to create a more broad experience, which a lot of Notre Dame players will tell you they enjoy that's part of,
because if you go play at Alabama, you're just in a football bubble for 4 years.
Exactly. And Notre Dame does not want to do that. And they've been resistant to do that. And Brian Kelly made requests to make it more like that. And Notre Dame was pretty resistant to it. Now they did do some things, but they were pretty resistant to it. LSU is not, which kind of explains a lot about that. But yeah, Notre Dame makes people mad. Just mentioning Notre Dame. My favorite is when you mention Notre Dame, they're like, why are you even talking about Notre Dame? Which tells me Notre Dame triggers you, because when I mention NC State, you don't go, why are you even talking about NC State? You just don't say anything.
I think people have a complex about feeling inferior.
Yeah. I guess
but so. I don't know that Notre Dame would be the team that you would put number one that would make the most people angry, though.
I think it would.
I think if you put Texas number one, more people would be angry.
No, I think Notre Dame would make the most people angry. And that is, I am trying very hard to make as many people feel as many things as possible.
Okay, so you hit anger at one. What's two?
All right, let's go to number two. We're going to go for a little credibility here. Number two, Ohio State. Jim Knowles coming to fix the defense. Going to be the best receiver room in the country again. Maybe. Got a Heisman contender at quarterback. Good team. Could potentially win the national title. That I want to make sure.
There's nothing better than Ohio State feeling disrespected, though.
But no. There's one thing better. There's one thing better.
You have to put Michigan ahead of Ohio State.
Alabama feeling disrespected.
Yeah, I guess.
I have put the Crimson Tide at number 3 behind Ohio State. Why? Not because I think Ohio State's better, but because I know it will make more people angry.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Ohio State is the prop to setting up another fan base.
Right.
Because we don't want it to be ridiculous. We want the rankings to be believable.
Right. The average fan will look at this and go, oh, Ohio State at number 2. Yeah, that's a good pick. Yeah, it's a good team. But an Alabama fan will look at this and go, what
the hell
What are you talking about, you idiot? You're crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so keep going.
Okay, so number 4, I had Georgia and realized I was going too far down this line of thinking of actually trying to make this a legitimate ranking. So I crossed Georgia out and I put Miami. Got to have a trendy pick.
Dude, I follow this account on Twitter that's just random screenshots from message boards.
Oh yeah, message
And
board geniuses. It's the
yeah,
best.
message. It's like, and it makes me laugh. There was one from Miami where the person who was posting on canesport.com said A&M and Clemson are swing games. The Coastal is getting owned, and I mean owned. FSU is a massive turd. The program is such an elite class now. Wow, excellent spring game. Offense will expand. Defense is a mile crisper. Special teams need some work. This is such a head and shoulders class program now. It's incredible what Mario Cristobal's already done.
They
I
lost
love
the division to Pitt last
Can
year.
you explain to me how anybody would rather watch another sport or be a mega fan of another sport?
I know
football?
people are crazy, but that makes you want to put
Miami is already I think you should put Miami too.
No, I'm fine with them at number 4 because that will enrage people.
That enrages Clemson,
but it also has a little bit of like trendy pick to it, like because you got to have somebody.
Oh yeah, like you're going to be the first person that says the use back.
Yeah, is NC State our trendy, like for real? When we actually get around to ranking teams, will NC State be our trendy pick this year?
Probably.
I think so too.
I think they seem to have a lot of juice.
Right, and a very good roster coming back. It felt like they were kind of hot to end the season. So, yeah, I think they'll be our actual trendy pick. But for this, you need a more out there trendy pick because we're trying to generate conversation in the dead of April. And you got the NFL draft going on. You got the NBA playoffs. There's a lot of noise to cut through with this thing. So you got to really piss people off. So Miami, number 4. Number 5, hook 'em.
Yeah, that's perfect. You thread the needle there because Texas doesn't need to be number 1 for people to be enraged. I think the fact that I think anywhere between 5 and 11 would make people angry.
Yes. Here's where it really comes together, though, because it's not enough to rank Texas number 5. If I want to really, really tick people off, I rank Texas number 5. I then show my SEC bias by ranking Texas A&M number 6. Meanwhile, Texas A&M people are like, how can we be behind Texas?
And if you put them right next to each other, that fans the flames.
Exactly.
Because even if A&M is 9, being right behind Texas, because if people think that the polls work where you are automatically being directly compared to the teams on either side of you, when that's not always how it works. But that to me is hilarious because you're putting teams in the. This sounds a lot like a making people angry poll.
This is the greatest poll of all time. We will be.
It doesn't matter what year it was.
Every talk radio show in America. If you released
this poll in any year, whether it was 2005 to 2022, that you would have the same reaction.
Oh yeah, we can probably
evergreen.
Bring it further back as you hear numbers 7 through 10. Get ready, because I'm not done.
These. Okay, go ahead.
Who do you think I have at number 7, Ari?
Georgia.
Nope, I crossed them out.
Oh boy.
USC. Lincoln Riley comes in as the savior and brings him into the top 10 right now.
Okay. So the reason why I said Georgia was because if you go too far without having them on the list, then you lose. It's so insane that then they don't get angry. Well, so you have to put them in a place where it hits them like right in their sore spot.
We're gonna tell the people that we made this poll in complete earnestness and that this is exactly as it was meant to be.
I know, but if you put Georgia at 17 or something, people will be like, this guy's an idiot. Like, you have to put it in a place where
we're only doing a top 10. In reality, Ari, what happened is I crossed out Georgia at number 4, intending to put them back at number 7, and I just forgot. And that's what happens sometimes in real life.
Okay, but if they make like the top 10, it doesn't matter where it is in the top 10, but they have to be ranked high enough where we think, or we get the credit, or they feel the credit of at least our acknowledging their existence.
Okay.
All right. It's not.
All right. I will take this under advisement, and I may add them back in.
Okay.
Later.
Because if you leave them out completely, then you don't hurt their feelings. You have to hurt their feelings by
making sure that you still thought about them.
This is true. This is absolutely true. Okay. So we got USC at number 7. Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley, unbeatable tandem, except for the times where they get beaten, which will happen, I guess, probably twice if they're number 7. So that would be a Pac-12 champion USC. That would be basically, well on the way to winning you $1,000. So you should be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it.
Number 8, Nebraska. This is and this is a math pick here, Ari. When I get challenged on this, when they bring me on your various talk radio shows.
By the way, you would be on like 39 shows in Omaha.
Oh, every show in Omaha, every show in Salt Lake City, because I haven't had Utah or BYU on the list yet.
Yeah.
Every show in Northwest Arkansas.
No local radio market goes harder than Nebraska.
Oh, no doubt. You even breathe the word Nebraska in a story. Those 402 numbers just come flying into your phone.
Yeah.
Hey, can you
respect
come on?
It. Yeah, you're the one who explained it to me. It's because they don't have pro teams there and they're obsessed with Nebraska. It's 365 every day, 247, 365.
And I appreciate it. That's our people right there.
Yeah.
So I'm good with that. But yeah, I got Nebraska now. And when I get challenged on this, when I go on the 7 Omaha stations and promote the Andy Staples Show and the Andy Staples Show computer laptop organized win Nexus, I think I'll just give them the math. And I actually wrote about this in a mailbag about 2 months ago. There was like a 3 in 1,000 chance of Nebraska being as bad as they were last year.
Oh yeah, because they lost.
Yeah, if you replayed that season 1,000 times, I think there's only like 3 times that they only win 3 games. They had this
just because they only lost like 7 games by 2 or something.
Right, and they had the same points for and points against in Big Ten play, and somehow went 1-8. So realistically, Nebraska should be better. I mean, it would be very hard to not be better than Nebraska was last year. Now, I know they lost a lot of players on defense, but I think they will be better in the record department. Even if, as weird as it sounds, maybe they're not as good of a team. Like, it would be hard to be worse, and maybe your luck kind of evens out. Will they be number 8? Of course they won't be number 8. But for our purposes, we're going to get on every show in Nebraska. We'll probably also get on every show. We'll definitely get on the Big Ten Network. Like, Dave Revson's going to call up and be like, what the hell is this, Andy? DiNardo's going to yell at me.
I feel like if you rank them in the top 10 going into the season and you were legitimate about it, that would be like the most significant thing to happen to Lincoln, Nebraska in like 10 years.
Do you think they'd throw me a parade?
I do.
Like, that one side of the street, they throw cinnamon rolls at me, and the other side of the street throws chili at me, and they collide at my head
and they make this like weird but delicious combination.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you'd have a lot of hate mail from Big Ten West teams.
The Iowa
Wisconsin would be pissed.
Furious. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that the people of Wisconsin. I'm
looking at the FPI thing right now, actually, and I feel like you have done a very good job of really needling people.
Yeah, I think so.
With the programs that you've picked.
Now, can I say this about my Nebraska pick here? This is exactly how I felt about everyone else's Nebraska pick to win the division 2 years ago, going into the season, where I was just thinking, 3 years ago, 2019. So this is the last pre-COVID season, where it was the popular pick. Like at Big Ten Media Days, the majority of media covering the Big Ten picked Nebraska to win the West. And I'm like, am I taking crazy pills? Did you people not see them play relative to Iowa and Wisconsin and the teams that usually compete for the West?
Yeah, I don't know what people are thinking sometimes. I don't know. Sometimes you just want something to happen so bad that you have to just speak it into existence, I guess.
But and look,
because I think Nebraska making the Big Ten championship game would be one of the coolest things that could happen in college football right now.
It has happened. The result was horrific for Nebraska, but it has happened.
Yeah, that's true.
So
what was the score? I was there, but I don't remember the
70
score.
to 33. Is that the final?
What year was that?
That would be 2012.
Wow, it's been that long, huh? Jesus.
Yeah, it was ugly. It was that was a Leaders and Legends championship game.
Yeah.
And didn't Wisconsin make it because Ohio State and Penn State couldn't go?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that was not pretty. So I think 70 to 31. I'm sorry I gave Nebraska too many points. But I think that would really get people going and would increase some visibility for our show, because we would then become the most popular podcast in Nebraska, which, you know, we're eventually going to become the most popular podcast in all 50 states.
Oh, sure.
But to be the most popular podcast in all 50 states, you first have to be the most popular podcast in one state. So Nebraska, we're coming for you.
I think there's another team that you can add in there that gets people's feathers ruffled, and I'm very curious to see if you've done it.
Number 9, LSU. Because I feel like Brian
the
Kelly
helmet
just
ranking
makes people mad.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm with you on that. Also, too, they were a disaster last year, so you're ranking the helmet.
Precisely, yes. They've had good recruiting classes, and it's a pretty helmet, and they were the best team in the history of the sport 3 years ago.
Yeah, and that's factored into their FPI for some reason.
It is, exactly. So it's also factored into this one, into the Andy Staples Show computer laptop organized win Nexus.
So I guess if you wanted to put Georgia at 10, you could, but there's one team that you could really put at 10 right now that I think would ruffle some Midwestern feathers.
I think you're going to say one that you think is the best answer, and then I'm going to give you the real best answer. So you go first.
Okay. I might be missing one because you've done a hell of a job, and I don't want to get in your way. But I think if you ranked Michigan State 10, that would really, really, really mess some people up.
Wait, and then below it in much tinier type, also receiving votes,
Michigan. Yeah. Because Michigan would already be mad that they are going to be ranked very behind Ohio State. And I guess that's a rational thing, whatever. But if you put Michigan State ahead of them, like, could you imagine?
Then when Nick Baumgartner and Brendan Quinn have me on the beat, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" I just go, "Dude, they got scoreboard. Did you not watch the game?
Did you not watch the game last year?" Yeah. That's hilarious. I think that would be hilarious, but I want to know who your 10 is.
Well, my number 10 is getting crossed out because you correctly explained to me that I cannot leave Georgia out of this.
Yeah.
So I am crossing out North Dakota State and adding Georgia.
Yeah. If you put Georgia at 10 after they won a national championship for the first time in 32 years, I don't even know what to say.
Well, then you're on every show in Atlanta.
But it's perfect because if you put them at 10, they're in the top 10.
Right.
And you've given them consideration.
Right. If I leave them off, it's you're just an idiot. And then I don't get on every show in Atlanta.
Yes. But if you put them at 10, that means you think they're going to be very good, but nowhere nearly as good as everybody else thinks they're going to be, which I think is far more of a troll than leaving them off completely.
Now, the North Dakota State thing is a nod to a certain type of fan, and I know you've dealt with them too, where they're like, well, they win the national title every year. How come they never get ranked?
Yeah. There's just, I don't know if there's enough of them to really to spread the hate around enough.
But I love those people.
Yeah. I guess you do have to have a smaller non-power 5 team in there somewhere. Whether it be a group of 5 team or a team like North Dakota State. So, I'm
crossing them out and putting Georgia. I think that's because
you can't put Cincinnati. Like, what is the team that you could put in from the group of 5 that's not Cincinnati or UCF?
You can always put Boise State in there.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Like, if you just threw Boise in there, you're like, well, we have to get a group of 5 team.
I mean, realistically, maybe Houston this year.
Boise, I think, is a good one because Boise is just another helmet vote.
Yes. At this point, coming off the season they had last year, definitely would be.
And if you do a helmet vote, that means that you were trying to be considerate of the group of 5's feelings but your actions have shown that you're actually completely and utterly disinterested in giving them a real chance.
That's exactly right.
Which is the best troll ever.
It is. So I think this would work. I am going to put this out. So normally I take a little video clip of the podcast and put that below when I tweet it out. I'm just going to put this out. I'm going to get back on Instagram tomorrow. I realize that I have not been active enough on the gram, and you might have to help me because I honestly don't know the difference between a post, a story, and a reel, and don't understand why all of those things can't just be a post. But
I don't know if I can help you. I just use it for personal stuff. So
yeah.
maybe I need to like be more.
I need to use it to build my brand, Ari.
Yeah, all my Instagram is just my friends and my pictures of my kid.
I am like maybe 12 pounds
before the 6-pack show starts.
From a 6-pack, and then I'll just.
You're really only 12 pounds away from a 6-pack, bro?
That would put me at like. It put me in the low 2s.
I know they say that.
Almost into the 1s at that point.
That getting a 6-pack is like 90% kitchen and 10% gym. But are you just doing a bunch of crazy ab workouts right now, like every day?
No, because that won't help you. Like, I have abs. I can see them if I turn a certain way. Like, they're there. I just got to get the fat off the top of them.
Okay. But I thought that, on top of it, you should be doing, like, a bunch of sit-ups and leg raises and stuff,
I am.
Right?
As part of my workouts, there are ab components to them. But, yes, if I ever really develop a 6-pack and don't have loose skin from when I weighed 280 pounds, which I very well might. So this might not be possible. But it will be tarp off 100%.
Well, then you could just go to meathead mode and just go like for like a 13-inch bicep.
The problem is 13 inches is not a very large bicep.
It's not?
No. Hulk Hogan had 24-inch pythons, the largest arms in the world.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I thought like a foot around in my head.
I think I'm already there. Ari, so
okay, well, why don't you get a 29-inch?
I think I'm past the 13. So
sorry, I'm not vain enough to know the exact inch measurement of what I don't know for a fact.
I'm just guessing here, but no, I will be relentless on Instagram if that ever happens. But I will return to Instagram with a graphic of this ranking, and we'll promote the show with this ranking. Ari, do you think anyone will actually call us and say, can you come on the show and explain this ranking?
Well, it depends on how you present
earnestly.
It depends on how you present it. If you present
I will present it dead serious.
Because if you do what it stands for, you can't type out what it stands for because then people will know you're kidding.
It can't be the
Andy Staples Show Computer Laptop Organized Win Nexus, right? Did I get that right?
Yes.
So you can't spell out A.S.S.C.L.O.W.N.
What are you saying? That spells something? Do we have another situation where I didn't know what the initials were on this show?
Yeah, just do the Andy. Just say, here's Ari and I put together our heads, and this is the ranking that we came up with.
No, I think we need to have the name on there. And I think that there might be some people who might not get the little acrostic poem that we're doing.
All you have to do is tweet. Ari and I spent all day on Sunday really putting our heads together to come up with our first rankings. I present to you the Andy Staples Show Computer Laptop Organized Win Nexus.
Done.
And then put the poll up there and then tweet a link. And then when people yell at you, don't even respond.
No, of course not. Of course
just
not.
let people freak.
Yes. And those of you who listen to the show will understand exactly what's going on.
Yes.
And we can all just enjoy this.
Also, if you have any suggestions of who we could have needled more,
yes,
I'd love to hear.
How
ideas.
Did we blow this? I do want to hear that because I think Ari's idea of Michigan State 10 and in tiny little letters also receiving votes Michigan, that might be better. Might be. But I do need to get Georgia back in there.
I do think that Ohio State is too big of a target not to hit. That's the one thing. Because they are very, very loud and very, very whiny.
They are, but they're always good. Like, even when they're bad, they're still pretty good. Like, bad by their standards.
I know, but coming off of a year where they missed the playoff.
Right. But see, their fans think that's bad. And, like, 99% of the fan bases would give a body part to have a season like they had last year.
It's just like maybe a top 3 largest fan base in the world. And if we're taking people out with us, I just feel like it's a large chunk to leave on the table because people in Columbus, Ohio, be like, yeah, we're
I
two.
have to have them above Alabama because one, you're pissing off the Alabama fans, but two, the collective fury of the SEC is greater than the fury of the entire of the collective Ohio State fan base. Like all of the SEC will be mad.
I know,
because
but
I had Notre Dame and Ohio State above the first SEC team.
But if you didn't target Alabama, because what does Alabama have to be mad at anyway?
Exactly.
There's nothing that you can say. If I were an Alabama fan, I'd be like, okay, bro, whatever. I'll just go wipe my face.
And notice every SEC mention is a troll.
Because you could have totally because does Georgia anticipate and expect to be ranked ahead of Alabama this year coming into the year?
No.
Okay, so then what you did is right. Because if there was if they thought they should be ranked number 1 coming into the year, then putting them behind Alabama again, like nothing happened last year, would be a tremendous troll.
I think Georgia fans, like if you gave Georgia fans truth serum, they'd be like, we are still so very happy with this title. And we understand that Will Anderson and Bryce Young still play for Alabama. And if they happen to win the national title this year, what are you going to do?
Yeah, okay. Well, with the Bryce Young, yeah. Okay, I see. You did it right.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, how could we take out Georgia and Ohio State if it means saving Alabama?
It's hard with Ohio State, again, because they're just so good most of the time.
They are so very sensitive about everything, too.
That's true. Well, listen, remember, Ari, is it not enough to have Notre Dame ahead of them? Doesn't that do the trick?
I think Ohio State's fine at 2.
But they'd be mad about being.
But everybody would be collectively enraged about Notre Dame.
Good, perfect. So we start with a raging fire, and then we just keep adding gasoline. These are the greatest rankings of all time. We got to do this every year.
Yeah, and just you don't have to revise them though.
No, you really don't. You can just do this every single year.
You did the hard part. No, it's a template now.
We'll just do this show every year. Like
That's funny. That was a good idea.
I know. Every tax day, we'll do this show.
Yeah, just cut out the beginning where I talked about my wedding.
Your wedding?
And we'll
celebrate your anniversary
every
and
year
tax day
by overranking USC and Texas.
Show.
Yes. Yes. It must be great to be a Texas fan because no matter how bad it went the year before, you're still going to be ranked. Like, what has to happen to that program for them to come into a season unranked?
I think losing to Kansas will do it, and I think you're going to buy me a steak dinner when that happens.
Well, we'll see soon. When do the polls come out? In 2 months?
August.
Oh, God.
We're talking AP poll and coaches poll, or just AP poll?
AP poll.
Thank you, because the coaches poll is definitely going to have Texas ranked. So
no, I want your peers to walk you down the plank.
Okay. Yeah, because I have no doubt whatever sports information people and ops guys do the coaches poll are going to have Texas ranked.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a good steak. I'm super excited to eat it with you either way, bud.
Bone-in ribeye? Is that where you go?
Yeah, we're going to it's going to be something that's in the hefty ounce family.
Okay, a little maybe porterhouse.
Yeah. I actually get very, very, very full from meat quickly. So, I mean, I could
physiologically the way it's designed. Yes, that's what it's for.
I mean, I could eat more pizza than most people can. I don't know that I'm a huge. I think like 12 ounces is good for me.
Amateur.
Yeah. Well, you'll teach me. You know a lot more about steak than I do.
We might be there might be 48 ouncer in my future if you're paying.
Yeah, well, I'd be happy to. I'm gonna go bankrupt. I'm gonna have to explain. I haven't even told Britt what happened. I have to explain to her why $1,000 just got Venmo'd out of my account. And
dude, you got 3 years for that. Like,
yeah, no, I know. I'm gonna start funneling money out of my checking account, $30 at a time.
We're gonna have done this show 2 more times. We'll have won so many. I don't even know. Is there like a podcast Emmys? Because we're gonna win every podcasting award for this.
Yes. No,
like this again. We're the #1 show in Nebraska next week, and the #1 podcast in America soon after.
Yeah, and think about how many Notre Dame fans will start listening.
Exactly. Of course, they already listen to the Shamrock. with our friends Pete Sampson and Matt Fortuna. But there's no reason they can't listen to two shows.
That's right.
All right. Ari, I love you.
I love you too, bud.
I can't wait. You're going to be a married man when next you appear on this show. We think you might make a bonus appearance before then, but we're not holding you to that. Please don't get robbed. Please don't lose Brit's dress. Please don't leave it in a Fairfield Inn in Odessa, Texas, next to a lovely Panera Bread.
I'll do my best. No promises.